Hey guys, welcome to Faith in Action tonight. We are standing in DJ's gym in his garage. The reason we're here is because DJ works out here. Why would he work out? He works out to build muscles, to be real, to be strong. We are going to work out our muscles, but we're going to work out our faith muscles. We're going to learn from the Bible tonight and from Timothy, and we're going to build those muscles to be strong and to grow that seed inside of us of faith. Tonight, your memory verse that you're going to write on your sword is from 1 Timothy 4:12. It says, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you are young. Be an example to all believers." We're going to talk about being real and fake tonight. We're going to talk about heroes. And I want you to get your memory verse written down and put that in your special place so that you can read it every day and you can memorize it so that you're planting the Word of God inside your heart so you can grow strong. Hey, inside your packet, you can pull out your matching game that is in there and your fake flower. We're going to talk about things that are fake and things that are real. I want you to think of a hero, someone that is a real hero and why they're your hero. A fireman maybe, and a fireman would be your hero because they would come and protect you and take you out of a place that might be on fire, or they would put a fire out in a place that you were watching and seeing and wanted to protect. Or maybe a doctor that can make you better, that you are when you're sick. But then you've also got fake heroes that we like to watch on TV and that we like to pretend to be. We've got Spider-Man and we've got Batman, but we've also realized that with those fake heroes, they've got a real personality in there. They've got a Bruce Wayne for Batman, and we've got Peter Parker for Spider-Man. So we tend to always want to go back to our real identity and our real heroes. So I want you to look at your plant, get your fake plant out. I have a green one. Y'all have a little flower. And mine I washed this morning before I brought it over here, and I got it all nice and clean and shiny. And this one, you can leave out. You don't have to water. You don't have to do anything to it. You can just set it in your house, and it stays perfect all the time. But that's really not very much fun when you have something that just sits there. This one is real, and this one stays in my house, but this one has little bitty tiny brown spots on it. This one is blooming. This one was a lot smaller when I started watering it and feeding it and giving it sunshine, and it grew. And this one is soft, and this one is pretty. And it's a whole lot more fun to watch a real plant grow and see how they can grow with the sunshine and all the love and care that you give them. So we're gonna, you can play the matching game. We're gonna stop here in just a second and you can play that matching game and match your heroes and think about real and fake and how much more we want to be a real person and a real plant, and we want to grow and we want to bloom and prune and trim the things off that we need to say goodbye to. So y'all play your game, and I'll see you in just a second. Okay, kids, we are going to talk about Timothy for the month of October. And so tonight, I just wanted to tell you a few things about Timothy. If you remember, in the New Testament, there are two books. That one is called 1 Timothy and one is called 2 Timothy. Do you think Timothy wrote those books? Well, if you think he wrote those books, you might be wrong. Those are letters that Paul sent to Timothy. Timothy was a very young man or young boy when Paul met him for the first time. He lived with his grandmother and his mother, and he had a dad that was Greek, and his mom was Jewish. So they had, Paul came on a missionary journey, his first missionary journey, and he met their family. And his mother and his grandmother were Christians. And Timothy, being young, had already studied and was already obeying Jesus. And Paul was very impressed with him. So Paul called him a true son of faith. He noticed that he had responded to the gospel, and that the elders of the church had noticed him, And so Paul kind of made a friendship, a mentoring of sorts with Timothy on his very first missionary journey. Timothy was contributed to getting his genuine faith from his grandmother and his mom, and their names were Eunice and Lois. They prepared his heart and helped him learn about Jesus. Paul, in his very first letter to Timothy, he gave him instructions and advice on leading the church. Paul also asked Timothy, as still a young man, he was probably 19 or so, he came and asked him to go on a missionary journey with him and to travel with him, and he taught him about how to be a missionary and how to work with churches and how to write letters back to them and help them and encourage them in natural ways and help them to grow and to bloom like our plant that we talked about. Paul mentions something that we know about Timothy. Paul mentions to him that he evidently had a illness that he had all the time, something that bothered him. We don't know what it is, but Paul told him to change his diet, and that would help him to relieve his illness. So that's interesting that he had a battle. He had something that didn't go away. And Paul was telling him to change his diet and to use natural things, and that would help him feel better. Paul told Timothy to do his best for God, and Timothy did. Timothy, he counseled him in his second letter, and he told him that he was a dear son to him and that he had a heart of love for him. He wanted Timothy to stand firm on his faith, and that's what we've been studying, is about how we can have our faith grow and how we can water our faith and how we can sit in the sunshine like our plants. And this time our son is the Son of God, Jesus. And we just need to keep putting God into our lives and keep studying the Bible. And we're going to study Timothy this month so that we can learn to be a faithful Christian and stand strong. So watch this next video, and I'll just see you next week.
God's story. Timothy. So part of God's story is about a guy named Timothy, and it begins like this. A boy named Timothy, let's call him Tim, was living in a town called Lystra with his grandma Lois and his mom Eunice. These two women taught Tim about God. They also taught him to enjoy spending time with God, just like how you can enjoy spending time with your friends. Tim knew a lot about God and had heard that God was going to send his son Jesus to rescue people from all the wrong things in the world. But since there weren't any TVs or newspapers back then, Tim didn't know that Jesus was already here. One day, a man named Paul came to Tim's city and told the people there that God had sent Jesus to the world, and we can know him and follow him. Tim wanted Paul to teach him to follow Jesus. He also wanted to learn other things Paul knew, like how to pray for his friends, how he could know God even better, and how to tell God's story. Kids, can you imagine loving to learn so much that you go to school all the time? You start following your teacher home on weekends and going with your teacher on vacation. You even go to school in the summer. That's kind of what Tim did. He followed Paul everywhere so he could learn new stuff about God all the time. But they didn't stay in one city. They went on a journey to a lot of cities, like Corinth, Greece, Jerusalem, Rome, Athens, Phrygia, Galatia, Mysia, Troas, Neapolis, Philippi, Apollonia, Berea, Thessalonica, and back again. Have you ever taken a trip with one of your best friends? When you spend a lot of time together, you learn a lot about each other. Well, Tim spent a lot of time with Paul, and he learned so much from him. And all those things he learned, he started telling other people. Some people thought Tim was too young to teach things to grown-ups, but Paul said to Tim, "Don't ever let people tell you that you're too young to tell them about God. You can show them how to act like Jesus." Kids, those things he said are in the Bible. 1 Timothy 4:12. Check it out. Remember, Paul knew a lot about God, and he was right. You're never too young to learn to act like Jesus. Anyway, in Tim's day, a lot of people were doing some pretty not nice things. Like some people tried to get their way all the time, or called their friends names. Others even did things like burp at the table right after their moms asked them not to. And they didn't even say, "Excuse me." Tim showed them how to act like Jesus. After a while, Tim and Paul couldn't be together all the time, but that was okay because Paul still wrote lots of letters to Tim, and Tim was able to keep learning. And even though Tim was still learning, he started to tell people about God. You don't need to know everything about God to tell other people about him, kids. Just share what you know. Now, the problem for Tim was sometimes he felt scared. He wasn't afraid of the usual stuff: spiders, dogs, darkness, heights, snakes, dentists, germs, even fluffy pillows. Or maybe that last one's just me. Where were we? Oh yeah, Tim was scared to tell people about God because he thought nobody wanted to listen to him. In his letters, Paul taught Tim that he didn't have to be scared of anything because God is with him, and you don't have to be scared either. God's with you too. Tim learned a lot of other things from Paul's letters too, like how we should always tell the truth, how we should make friends with people who are lonely, and how we should not be worried about looking cool or getting a lot of awesome new stuff. Remember, learning about God was Tim's favorite thing to do, so that's what he kept doing his whole life. And that's the story of Timothy. So in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Tim liked learning about God. He followed his teacher Paul all around the world and kept learning. He also showed a bunch of people what it looks like to follow God. Because Tim followed God, he wasn't as scared about things or worrying about stuff that didn't matter. And that's a part of God's story.